Hi everyone, I'm here for my Facebook Live weekly. I can see my hair, my God, this wind on our or in our Facebook group. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is talking about the differences between a reason and an excuse, and how they can actually, on how they do impact our productivity and our success in life generally. So I want to just first of all give you my definition and the differences, the way that I see them between reasons and excuses, and why those differences are really important, and the language that we use. So a reason, and this is usually going to be for things that don't end up happening. So if I give an example of reasons, like let's say we've got a whole lot of things we're doing on our to-do list, we get through the day, they're not done, and it's a case of, okay, well, the reason it didn't get done was because, so let's say it was going to meet a friend for lunch and they cancelled at the last minute. So that was the reason that you actually didn't get the luncheon in. And let's say you were going to be talking about, your business or something on more of a personal level that you're really wanting to do. So I tend to think of reasons being external to us, that they're often out of our control. And maybe, usually sort of involve other people or other things. Like I wanted to go and do the gardening today, but, it started raining and it wasn't forecast or something like that. Now, sometimes it can be within our own control, or within ourselves internally, I should say. It could be, I'm literally not feeling well. I can't be working today for that reason. I can't be doing what it is that I wanted to be doing. And, I suppose they're more legitimate, so to speak, more bona fide. The important thing, though, of course, is to look at how much you wanted to do those things, what value were you going to be getting out of doing them. And the question then, and the decision then for you to be making is whether you think they actually should be rescheduled, some of those things like the gardening or visiting the friend, or whether maybe they're time dependent and you don't need to be doing that because the time has passed and the need isn't there anymore. Now, if you contrast that to then excuses. So excuses are usually things that we do have more control over, and they do tend to be mostly internal. I've got a notification there I want to get rid of because it's annoying me. So an excuse could be, we're probably very familiar with them. I couldn't, finish off writing my blog because I got interrupted by the next door neighbour and they were talking forever and ever and ever. And I got back to my desk and then it was time to leave to go and do something else. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't tell them, I couldn't say to the neighbour, hey, I've got something important. Did it go? Sorry, I got a call then. I've let them wait. So yes, I was talking about the excuse where the next door neighbour had come in, they're talking with me, and I'm blaming, because that's really what it is, the neighbour for interrupting me as the reason why I haven't done the thing that I've been wanting to do. But the thing is, though, I've actually got control over that because I can set boundaries. I can say either, I've just got a quick minute or so to talk to you, or look, I can't talk to you now. I have this other thing I need to be doing. Can I come and talk to you after I finish that? So if you actually let the person, the neighbour in this example, talk, and you're not getting the thing done, in the case, use the example of the blog, then that is under your control, and that really is an excuse, because there's something you could have done differently that would have resulted in you actually getting that thing done. In this case, as I said, the blog. So I'm hoping you can see the difference there. As I said, reasons tend to be externally, or they can be internally, as I said, if you're unwell or something, whereas excuses will tend to be external things, either, as I said, the rain or people, that we actually do have control over. So I could have put out the washing earlier before it was raining, and that sort of thing. There's usually other ways to get around it, to actually get something done. So why does it make any difference? The reason that it makes a difference is that with reasons, we'll usually, as I said, either reschedule them, or we'll decide that they don't need to be rescheduled, and that's okay. We move forward regardless. But with excuses, they are often things that we want to be avoiding, that we've made the excuse for. So, of course, procrastination is an incredibly common reason for why we make excuses. Not the only reason, but it's pretty much one of the top contenders. And so what that means is it's often we procrastinate on things that we actually want to do, and we know we need to be doing to progress ourselves, either in our personal lives or in our professional lives, but there's some level of discomfort or some unease that we've attributed to it. It could be fear, it could be that it'll be boring, it'll be maybe painful, those sorts of things. And that's and what we do then is we make the excuse and we put it off, because the excuse, inverted commas, justifies it. But it only actually just puts it off momentarily, because usually if it's an important thing that we're making excuses about, it's going to hang around, and we're going to then be having to either reschedule it or make some decision about, okay, how else am I going to be able to get this thing done? And you can imagine this takes so much mind, power in terms of our thoughts and our reasonings and our decision making. And you may have heard of a term called decision fatigue, and this can come about when we make so many decisions in the course of our day, and it actually reduces our productivity when we do that. And of course you can imagine if we are making excuses and putting things off with procrastination, our productivity just pretty much goes down the gurgler, because often what we're doing is we're making the excuse, we're actually doing something else that we think is less uncomfortable, but it actually isn't going to be moving us as forward. It isn't as productive as the thing we're making the excuse about. So what I would really invite you to be doing going forward is really thinking about the times when there is something that you haven't done or doesn't go ahead as you thought it would, and deciding, reflecting on it, and deciding if it is a reason and it's justifiable, or if it's an excuse and really it's not justifiable. Otherwise it would be a reason and not an excuse. And sometimes, it's not always so black and white. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to work it out. And if that's the case, because we can be very, very good at talking ourselves out of doing things that we think aren't going to be much fun. Most of us are pretty good at it. And I really invite you to listen to your self-talk. It's absolutely critical. If you want to get ahead in life, we need to be the boss of our brain, of our thoughts, and to really actually call ourselves out when we are making excuses that aren't reasons. So identifying that. And one of the ways that I do it, if it's not really readily apparent, is that I sit still, take a deep breath, and I do really, I suppose, a form of self-inquiry, and just listen to myself saying what it is that I think might be an excuse, or maybe it's a reason, and letting it sit inside me and breathing into that, and maybe identifying where in my body I'm feeling it, and actually asking it, are you a reason, or are you an excuse? And our inner wisdom, by far the majority of the time, our inner wisdom will let us know. I do this, and I come up with a knowing. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's an excuse. Or, no, it's actually a legitimate reason, and this or these are the reasons, and, okay, I didn't get to do that for whatever that reason was, but this is what I'm going to do about it so I can ensure it gets done, or, as I said earlier, maybe it doesn't need doing. And that's okay. I don't have to feel guilty. I've made that decision now. And the whole idea of this is to be at peace with what it is that we decide to do, listening to what our gut, our intuition tells us. And if we do decide that it's an excuse, then it's our decision then to say, okay, what am I going to do with this? What is it that's uncomfortable? What am I wanting to avoid? And that's why I'm coming up with the excuse. And maybe you can sit still and listen to yourself. What could be a way that I could actually make this a little bit more comfortable for myself, a little bit easier? Sometimes they're big things that we think we're going to do, big items on our to-do list. And it can actually be overwhelming. So possibly, if that's the case, for example, you could break it down and say, okay, I won't do, writing 3 blogs today. I'll write 1, or, chunking it down, as we say in NLP, so that it's more manageable, so we're less likely to feel that it's going to be uncomfortable or difficult or boring, as I said, and that we're more likely to do it and not come up with the excuse. So the bottom line is, and this is that I would love you to take away from this, is that the reasons are legitimate. They're usually things that we are going to want to schedule, or they're time dependent and then we don't. Either way, we move on and we're okay with that. The excuses, if we don't do something about them, they keep gnawing at us. And they actually usually will build up and will be worse the more and more excuses that we make, the longer that we actually procrastinate or don't deal with it. So you want to minimize those excuses. Think about the reasons and questioning whether they're real reasons. And if you do that, your productivity in your business, your work, in your life generally, I absolutely promise you will be so much better for it. So I really hope that makes you think going forward to consider when you don't do things whether there's reasons or excuses, and what you will do with both of those sets of things, particularly the excuses. So please, any comments if you're watching this on the replay, or if you're listening on in the group, and please, any comments, any questions? Have you found this to be useful? Have you thought that there's been times when you thought maybe they were reasons, but in fact now that you've been listening to me, you've thought, oh no, maybe actually they're excuses? Or possibly the other way around. Maybe you've beaten yourself up, figuratively I hope, so because you've thought, oh God, I've not done this again, but there's actually been a legitimate reason. I tend to think that if someone's not well, I'm big on compassion. We don't want to let those excuses creep in, but sometimes we're really, really not well, or we're tired. And, I'm really big about listening to our bodies. But if it's a conscious decision that we've made, and we're aware of what consequences they may or may not be, then that's as much as we can ask of ourselves. So I'll leave you with that, and have a great week, and I look forward to engaging with you in the group. See you later. Bye.